Myles, Harry Mack from the Bookie's Basement. I hope all is well. So what does it mean to you to make your PFL debut against, kind of a legend of the sport in Anthony Pettis?
It's an honor to be part of this promotion, and just super looking forward to getting in there and doing my thing and performing and coming away with the W. He's going to know he's been in a fight, that's for sure. So it's a great promotion. After I had my last fight, I thought to myself, I'd love to get on that show. So I did, which is good.
There you go. And how do you feel about being a 2-1 underdog going into the fight? Do you feel like that price is right or wrong, or how do you feel about that?
I don't really care, to be honest with you. Odds are just odds. I don't have any control over what the odds are. The only thing I have control over is how I perform and what I do on the night. And that's what's important. Everything else is a waste of energy. And that in particular is, I feel.
Got it. And so, obviously the fight hasn't happened yet, but what would you say are kind of the biggest differences so far between the fight week experience at Bellator and at PFL?
Being looked after a lot better, I feel. Everything's really, there's always somebody there to look after you. There's always somebody there touching base with you to let you know how everything is going within the week and what your schedule is. And and plus, likes of free gear and stuff like that is nice as well, of course. Those Bosch earphones are sweet. So
I'll love to hear it. Well, Myles, I very much appreciate your time, and best of luck this season.
Thank you very much, my bro. Great chatting to you.
Dylan.
Hey there, Myles. I appreciate you making some time.
Hey, Dylan. Great to meet you, man.
Yeah, no, likewise, man. I'm just curious how you're feeling heading into this one, just being that it's been a bit of a hiatus. Looks like a bit over 3 years since you last got out there for that Peter Queally fight. So what's the, mentality and everything ready to return to competition?
That's a great question. I feel like that I've mentally prepared for the ring rust per se. Ring rust, I feel, comes down to a psychological aspect and a particular type of preparation within your training, and that being hard sparring. I've been through the mill in this camp, and it wasn't just a camp. I've been training in the meantime. And of course, there's still that little bit that you bring into the cage when you compete, but it's well looked after in regards to the psychological aspect with myself, because that's a big part of my game. That's one of my strongest attributes, is the mental game. So I've prepared 100% for it, and I'm looking forward to showing that on the night.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like the mental preparedness is there, but also the physical preparedness seems to be there too. It looks like UFD gym has been the main space there. Like, who are the primary sparring partners leading to this Pettis fight?
I was sparring with Roberto Soldic. I was doing a little bit with Abus Mamedov. He's a middleweight though, so not too much. David Zawada, he was in the UFC for a long time as well. And there's Loma Lee as well. He's in the KSW. And there's other killers as well. There's always those killers in the gym that should be on the bigger promotions, but they're not. So, and that gym is rampant full of those. So, and of course, my teammates in Team Rhino in the north side of Dublin in Ireland, James Sheehan, Graham Sheehan, Neil Seary, Paul Redmond, they're all, extremely hard spars. We have a reputation for being tough around there. So
thanks so much for the insights, man. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Ken McGuire.
They let anybody into this thing now, wouldn't they? How are you, Myles? How are things?
Hey Ken, how are you, my bro?
I'm good. You got to get the home representation out. Myles, Dylan referenced the 3-year gap. It's also been a while since you had 2 fights in the same year, and Ray referenced this a couple of minutes ago, talking about guys that come in and they might only fight twice a year, and like seeing guys that are a bit busier. So you'd be going back to the Phil Rayburn, Norman Park kind of time in 2018. Given the potential for, and not getting ahead of ourselves here, but given the potential for a second fight later in the summer, how does that play in terms of your preparation or how you approach this one? Do you go in? Do you give it everything? Do you go all out? Do you risk injury? Do you have a concern for later? Is there a bit of a game plan at stake here, or how do you see the season running for you?
That's a great question. I feel like some of my best performances I've ever had was when I fought Phil Rayburn and then went back to back against Norman Park that time. Even though the performance didn't work out in my favor, it was still a very close fight against a top level opponent. And I feel like, it's like that Bernie Mac saying, sometimes when you win, you lose, and sometimes when you lose, you win. I feel like I almost, in a lot of ways, won that fight. I felt great. So it'll suit me the season in the league format to go from one fight to the other. And, Ken, I feel like that it's baggage if you're bringing in expectations of a particular way to finish a fight or not. You have to have fine-tuned adaptability. You have to be able to work things on the fly and be an autopilot. And especially coming off not being the busiest over the last, not just couple of years, but as you said, as the years progressed, I've been one of those guys that I fight once, maybe twice a year and take a bit of time off. So it's important to not have any baggage going into a competition and to make sure that I'm in full flight when I'm competing on the night,
Well, given the league format, it is a points system at the end of the day. Does that add anything to your game plan? Like, okay, a win is a win, but a win in some regards may not be enough when it comes to the business end of things.
Of course, but if you say let's put ourselves in a scenario. If I say have a choke on, and the calculated, the rational side of me, you could say, is knows that it's not the right thing to squeeze and burn your arms out and hope for the 3 points. And then, next thing my arms are burnt out and then I have to reserve energy and find a way around that situation, So it's carrying that. That's the type of baggage that I wouldn't be able to bring into the fight. If the finish is there, I'll take it. If not, then I won't. At the end of the day, performing and coming out with a W is the ultimate goal. And if you risk that, then it'll be the opposite result.
We spoke about Anthony Pettis earlier in the year, and you at the time you were of the opinion that he wasn't the same Anthony Pettis as before. The results obviously didn't go his way last season with the 2 decisions, and Kayla made a nice reference earlier about taking the off season to work on things, get a fresh outlook, come back bigger and better and sharper, and show off what has changed in the time since. He will have had last season, he will have had his off season, he will have had his preparation. Are you expecting anything different from Pettis coming into Friday?
I definitely feel like he's going to try and come in and prove a point that he is the Pettis of old, and rightfully so. He wants the best for himself. And I feel like that, from what I've heard, I've trained with a few guys that are in his circles, and they were saying that he's doing a lot of boxing, a lot of running. So he's probably going to try and show off a bit of his boxing. That's what he's more than likely going to be referencing to in regards to the new skills and new tools he wants to show. But I got hands too. I got striking too. And, all it comes down to is who implements their game plan to the best of their ability. Like, you could say exactly the same for me. I've had 3 years. Nobody knows what I've been doing in those 3 years. I've been doing a lot of growing, a lot of training, a lot of adapting myself. So we'll both bring our current tools and new tools to the chessboard come Friday.
Okay, last one from me. You're the first to fly the flag for Ireland. You're definitely the first to fly the flag for Kilkenny under the PFL banner. What does it mean? What does it mean to you as an athlete in that regard?
Oh, it's a huge honor for me. Ken, sure, I'm Kilkenny cat. I love my county. Big fan of the hurling, and obviously I'm Irish, so it's a big honor for me to be representing Ireland for the first fighter from Ireland to be represented on PFL. So it's a massive promotion, And to be from Kilkenny, my hometown, is a huge honour for me, of course. So, yeah, it's a big deal.
Will we see the GAA shorts in the cage?
I would love if I could get a GAA pair of shorts in the cage. Maybe PL could start me out with a custom GAA Kilkenny pair. That'd be great.
Good stuff. On that note, all the very best of skill for Friday. Very much looking forward to the fight.
Thanks, Ken. Great to hear from you as well.
Jonathan.
How you doing? You spoke about having those 3 years off. How did you grow as a fighter during those 3 years? Training, going down different avenues of my game, developing my grappling, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, striking, and in particular the psychological side of my game. I was speaking about this in an interview yesterday, I think, that I'm following through with academic studies in psychology now. And, the pandemic was a silver lining for me per se. So I had a lot of time to work on those psychological aspects. I've always been really interested in the mentality side of things, like how the gym hero per se can't translate it into the cage as much, and why that is. And that's something that's always really intrigued me. So I got to delve into the academic side of things with psychology and applying it to my own game, along with improvements in different areas of my game also. So that's where I feel like the improvement has been. Yeah, awesome, man. And you talked about, being that first person to fly that banner. What message do you have to your fans back home?
I just really appreciate all the support. To be honest with you, Jonathan, it's really hard to put into words the gratitude of the support from, first off, friends, family and loved ones, and coaches from my gym. I run like a family martial arts center back home. So I wouldn't be able to do this, to lead from the front per se, unless they were there supporting me and looking after all the juniors and the teenagers and the adults and the beginners and all that. So I'm just so grateful for all the support, and it means the world to me. It's hard to put into words, to be honest with you.
Well, I appreciate your time, Myles, and you have a great season.
Thanks very much, Jonathan.
Lorenzo.
Hey, Myles, thanks so much for taking the time with us. It's great to talk to you. This past weekend, this past weekend, there was a huge boxing card at Madison Square Garden in New York, right? Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. It was a great fight, great moment for combat sports. Katie came away with that historic win. It was a big win for Ireland too. Do you draw any inspiration from that fight and, in turn, try to use it to fuel you in this fight coming up?
Yes and no. I was talking to at an interview today, and this was brought up. I think it's giving me inspiration now because it's closing in on the fight night for me. So it's add inspiration for sure. But as I was watching it, I was just really happy for Katie, to be honest with you. She deserves all the praise and everything that comes her way. And she's, in my opinion, she's the one of the greatest, if not the greatest Irish athlete to ever compete. So yeah, I was just really happy for her, to be honest with you. Now I feel that it gives me a bit of a spur now that it's been brought up a few times, but I didn't think of it really until now.
And there's no doubt also that the fact that it was at a venue such as Madison Square Garden, that just added on top of all that hype and the excitement around that fight. Is there a specific place in your mind that you're like, damn, I'd love to fight there one day? I want to ask you, is there any arena or maybe specific city that excites you when you think of the possibility of fighting there in the future?
Not particularly, to be honest with you. I love Texas so far. I've actually always wanted to visit Texas. So this is cool. I love the whole cowboy thing and all that, and got to go to a baseball game. So I'm just grateful forever I get to go. But if you had to put a gun to my head, I'd say I'd probably go with the generic same as every other fighter, like New York or Las Vegas or Madison Square Garden or, the MGM or something like that,
For sure. If you get the chance, if you haven't done it already, go check out Cowboy Stadium. That thing is crazy, man.
Yeah, I was gutted that it's not football season at the moment.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be back here to go to a football game though.
Awesome. And last one for me there, Myles. You mentioned it earlier. psychology is kind of field that study that's always interested me also, although, I've never had any formal teaching or anything like that. It's probably some time away from now, but do you think you would ever like to pursue that in terms of sports psychology or fighting psychology, you think, in the future?
I wouldn't say sports psychology or fighting psychology. I already have a long-term plan in place because I think that's important for athletes and fighters in general, because there's such high-end goals that we have that, there's a big void to fill at the end of your journey. And it's important to have that filled, that authentic excitement to move on to something else, or you kind of lose the gratitude for everyday life and the things that you have. So I feel like moving into the academics of doing clinical psychology, and I would like to do psychoanalysis or neuroscience. That would kind of be the field I'd like to go into.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, Myles. Good luck this week. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jim Barcelone.
Yes, thank you. Coming from Ireland to America's Ireland, Arlington, what has it been like for you coming over to the States? Did you come here earlier just to get a little bit more acclimated?
I did. I came on last Friday, so I've had plenty of time to get acclimated, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. Absolutely love it around here. It's great.
And what do you think specifically about the PFL format? This is a different format, the regular season. And when you were first thinking about PFL, what was your interest in coming to PFL?
My interest was the power being and the responsibility being in the fighter's hands. There's one thing I do not agree with, and that's the politics that come with a lot of shows, that the promoters make the decisions as to where fighters should go and shouldn't go in their career. Even though they could be doing quite well on the promotion, because they're not marketable, they get kind of pushed to one side and forgotten about. And then, somebody has cool hair and they have a mad accent or whatever, and then they get the opportunities that the guy that maybe a little bit more introverted gets pushed to one side. So I feel like PFL really favors fighters' rights in that kind of department, in regards to, it's up to you to win the fights, and it's up to you to take these steps forward. And I think that's really intrigued me about their format.
And lastly for me, have you already got your cowboy hat?
Oh God, I need to get a cowboy hat. I really do. Me and my coach are only talking about it, and we're going to go. I think that there's like a boot barn up the road, and I think that's a good place to get it. So I'm going to go up there and get myself a cowboy hat. So yeehaw, can't wait.
Thank you. You're a Texan now.
Yeah, you have me hooked now.
All right, Julian.
Hi, Myles. This is Julian here from Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you for your time, brother.
No problem.
I actually was just listening to you speak about the psychology of sport, and this is the first time I'm actually speaking to you, and just the way you bring yourself across and carry yourself towards the media. Also, you obviously have that marketable character also, and it relates to my question. And I mean, you actually basically answered part of my question now, but with you, I'm looking at the psychology side of sport. Do you feel that the other promotions, I won't mention names, but the other bigger promotions, that it's going to be to their detriment, the way that athletes, I mean, look at mechanical engineers, look at authors, they do well, they're good at their trade, and they obviously are rewarded in that regard. Obviously, it's relative in the sense that you must market yourself to a certain extent, but fighters, I mean, you guys put in all the hours in the gym, you fight extremely hard, the training for years and years of discipline, dedication, and yet some athletes, like you said, some promotions, if you just aren't that likable for some promotions or for certain fans, or you refuse to do certain wacky things on social media, you're just not going to get that stardom like some other fighters. And even though you can be the most lethal combat athlete in the world, but it's something that concerns me. And I mean, I just wanted to ask you that because, like you said, you look at the psychological things of the sport, and you touched on it now in the previous question. Do you think that's going to be a problem going forward? And that's where the Professional Fighters League is so much more better for athletes in the future of mixed martial arts?
It's definitely a step forward, and I'm on exactly the same wavelength as you. I feel like that it's a ticking time bomb. It can't go on forever. Fighters are some of the hardest workers in sports in general. And, you know, there's like, look at the money that footballers and soccer players and basketball players get. You know, athletes make serious sacrifices. It's a very lonely sport, you know, and it should step away a little bit from the entertainment side of things. And in regards to payment, you know, of course, some fighters are always going to be a little bit more popular than others. But at the end of the day, it's an equal right issue. It's a rights issue. And every fighter deserves to be treated as an equal human being. And it's just not happening in the sport. And I feel like that's something that I really stand strong for, you know. You shouldn't be pushed down and pushed away because of you being authentically who you are. Your actions and how you compete, because that's the sport that we're in, should shine through above all else. In regards to pay, you know, I think that's the biggest thing, really. Like, pay should be a big thing. And also, you know, opportunities, you know, like even if it's like slightly one on one side, it shouldn't be, you know, crazy. It shouldn't be like number 15 fighting number 2. It should be like, you know, 4 fighting 3 or 4 fighting 2, you know, stuff like that. So I think it has a lot to grow. It still has a long way to go in regards to really treating fighters the way they should.
Thank you for your time, brother, and God bless you.
You too.